It's so funny watching you dance off screen when the intro's playing. Bopping up and down.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. And yeah, we were dancing during that intro, like we always do.
I was sitting perfectly still, maybe bobbing because I was laughing watching you dance.
You could see that?
Oh, yeah. At the bottom of the screen there.
Well, the viewers couldn't see it, and that's what matters.
Oh. Here, let me do an instant replay for you. There you go.
Okay.
Speaking of bobbing the heads, did everybody see Darnell Nurse punch Kachuk in the back of the head in their game the other day?
Yes. So I think most people have seen it by now. I don't think it was as bad as what happened to Nurse, but it's certainly not a great play, and thank you, Reddit, for having this.
Seen it, read it, done.
So, okay, maybe, yeah, it's not a great play.
I mean,
do one more playthrough there. Yeah, it's...
No. Now, what do they always say? You can't turn at the last second. But you can't punch to the back of the head either.
Yeah, that was not great.
So following the Ryan Reeves hit, when Reeves clipped him in the head there, coming around the back of the net, nasty hit, deserved suspension. Very fair call by the NHL Player Safety Association. Very, very good call. I agree as a Leafs fan. But the irony in this, I think, is in the interview after the game. After the Ryan Reeves hit, he's saying some guys are just out there to hurt other players. And the irony in that is, considering that's a muted microphone for Andrew there.
Yeah, I didn't want my chewing to go through.
Oh, okay. What are you eating, Andrew?
Popcorn, believe it or not.
Oh,
snack.
Nice. Tasty. So anyway, after that hit, Nurse is saying how some guys are just out there to inflict pain on people. What do you think Nurse is doing when he's punching Kachuk in the back of the head? Is he trying to cuddle him night like what you do with your 2-year-old daughter? I don't think so.
He's definitely going to inflict pain there. That's probably more of a retaliation. Knowing Matthew Kachuk, I didn't see any of the play beforehand, but he probably pissed him off at some point in the game. Now, that doesn't call for blindsiding a guy with a punch in the back of the head. Thankfully, as far as I know, Chucky wasn't hurt on the play there.
I don't think so. I think it would have been bigger news if he was. Because then I think the Nurse probably would have got suspension, knowing the NHL loves to suspend based on injury.
They absolutely do. That's literally a listed factor.
The main point I want to bring up here is just Darnell Nurse being a hypocrite in what he's saying. How some guys are out there to inflict pain. He plays a very physical style. He's a big boy. He's 6'4". He's known to be a physical defenseman, but that's not a hockey hit. Playoffs, you might be able to get away with that to a certain extent, but regular season, that's not a play. Kachuk has it coming because of his hard-nosed style, and he's an agitator, but he can back it up with goal scoring. But Nurse, don't talk the talk if you can't walk the walk on that one.
Yeah, he's definitely being hypocritical to, take that hit from Reeves and say what he said was okay. And Reeves responded and said, yeah, it's my job to inflict pain. And to some extent, yeah, but you need to be more useful than that in today's NHL. But to go around a few games later, be like, oh, Kachuk's annoyed me. Let's just sneak punch him in the back of the head.
Oh, he's turned to try and head check me, possibly. I don't know what he's doing, so... right in the
basically.
back. Yeah. we're not going to spend too much more time on it just because it's still hockey. It's a rough sport. It happens. But don't call out others if you're doing the same thing.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of not nice hits to the head, how about that Grenberg hit on Dewar?
Who the hell is Grenberg?
You don't know who Grenberg is?
You
Or
mean
Berggren?
Berggren?
Grenberg? I think
Sorry,
my
Wings fans. We're
popped out here.
disrespecting you right now. Berggren's a solid player.
They'll laugh about it. They need something to laugh about this season. Yeah, no.
So you get their player's name wrong, and you're like, yeah, they need something to laugh about.
Yeah, we'll all get a laugh at my slip of the tongue there. My Slystexia is acting up on this one. But Berggren, that was not a nice play to make on Connor Dewar of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Do you have it? Do you have the clip ready?
I could probably have the clip.
But the issue I have on that one, though, is the comparables to the play that he made, where he only gets fined $2,100, which is probably the maximum based on his salary, which fine. But
Here we go.
Here we go.
So from the looks of it there, post whistle.
Yeah, the goalie's got the puck.
Just after, but still. Goalie has the puck. Here's a better angle. See, it was a little bit of a kind of reverse hit there by Dewar, just a little nudge, but that didn't call for a cross-check to the head, you know.
That's a pretty ugly play. Like, I got like Dewar's okay. He just came off of injury a few games ago, and he's been out the entire season so far. But if you're Berggren, I got that one right that time. Berggren. So he's probably looking to defend his goalie because he thinks Dewar's gonna like touch him. He's trying to clear the space in front of the net. You don't want, even after the play, you don't want your opponents anywhere.
There are different ways to clear space in front of the net.
Yeah, it's clearly a retaliation on Dewar's reverse. A little bit of a bump there because Dewar sees him coming. He's defending himself a little bit. He's claimed his ice. But then Berggren comes in, and it's a clear shot to the head. Should there be supplemental discipline? And what do we think that should have looked like? Because we know what the NHL made their call. It was a $2,100 fine, no suspension or anything.
It probably should have been something. As a Sens fan, I'll defend the Leafs player here. And, he got cross-checked to the back of the head. There probably should have been a little bit more than a fine. And it is Berggren's first offense, as far as I know. So
I don't think he's been in the league long enough to have a history.
No, he's been between the AHL and NHL the past couple seasons or so. But there should have been a game or two. Nothing major. Just something little like that. It's kind of a, hey, it's not how we do it in the NHL.
So as a Leaf fan, maybe this comes back as being a homer, but it's the Detroit Red Wings. Nobody was hurt on the play. The Leafs were playing not very good hockey that entire game. It was a bad game to watch. I certainly didn't enjoy it. But especially knowing that it's a Saturday night on the first game of back-to-back, you want a completely different result against a team like Detroit, especially if you're the Leafs. That has to be a win, but they played like absolute doggy-doo the entire game. It was a horrible game to watch. But
did they lose that?
I believe so. I believe they did. They lost the first game against Detroit, and then they were down 3-1 against Buffalo Sunday night. And then in the span of like I think it was just a few minutes. The span of just a few minutes, and they made it I believe they made it 4-3. Like they just scored like 3 goals really quickly. But either way, so on Saturday night the Leafs lost to the lowly Detroit Red Wings, and
it's not acceptable.
It's a 4-2 loss, and I can't remember if there was an empty netter. Doesn't matter. You can't lose to a team like Detroit. But back, sorry.
Some teams that you play against, if you're a top team, nothing's a for sure win, but there's expected wins. And if you're Toronto playing Detroit or the Sabres or the Canadiens in your own division, those are expected wins as of right now.
And every fan knows you're a top team. Your team's not going to try as hard against some of these other teams that are not very strong because they know they can run their show with half an effort. But you can't show up to play like they did that game. It was an ugly game right from the start. And as a Leafs fan, every Leaf fan should be pretty upset by that. Jesus, sorry, an advertisement played on the other screen. It just scared me.
What?
An advertisement on TSN just started playing as I was looking something, and it scared the crap out of me because it was pretty loud in my ears. But yeah, anyway, but back to the hit. You can clearly see Berggren is a cross check to the head. My issue is not the fact that he got supplemental discipline, which he should have. The issue is trying to be as unbiased as possible, because knowing that's a Leaf player there, and they're my team. Sometimes we don't.
You have a Sens fan on your side here, so I think you're good.
I feel, especially considering that outdoor game a couple of years ago when Austin Matthews and Rasmus Dahlin got into it in front of their net after the whistle, they were scuffling. Matthews went to cross-check him in the shoulder, but he got Dahlin in the face. Matthews got a 2-game suspension for that one. To this sort of play, it wasn't anywhere near the amount of intensity as the Matthews-Dahlin scuffle, but it's the exact same play, more or less.
I believe that's the only time he's ever been suspended, too, right?
Matthews, yeah. I believe so.
I know he's been a finalist for the Lady Bing a couple times, which is kind of a,
The Goudreau Award, you mean? It should be. Some owner's wife back in the 1920s has an award still named after him. No, they should name the Goudreau Award because of the type of player he was. But anyway,
you won't catch them changing award names. Anyway, I agree. They could have matched it. I think the reason Matthews got the bigger suspension is because he's a star player and Dahlin's a star player. It doesn't mean that it should have been any different, but it drew more attention than a fringe NHLer cross-checking a 3rd/4th liner.
I truly don't believe that stardom versus 4th liner scuffling. I don't believe that should have a factor in it, because Ryan Reeves still got 5 hits and he's not a star player.
But look how much attention that got.
Yes, because it was I said that he should have had 5 to 6 games. I thought he was going to get more than 5. He got 5. I thought it was fair. But the comparables that I see on this hit for Berggren on Dewar would be the Matthews hit when he's scuffling with Dahlin after, I believe, Dahlin slashed him in the back of the leg. They were scuffling, cross-check, rolled up the shoulder, hit him in the head. That's comparable because it was a little bit of a scuffle, not as intense, but still a cross-check to the face. Why I don't think it's as bad as the Morgan Rielly suspension, which he got 5 games on Ridley Gregg last season. There was clear intention because Riley was hunting him down. I still don't think
Yes,
Riley
that
should have got
was.
5 games for that.
You think
But
he shouldn't have?
I was leaning in 3, like 3 to maybe 4.
Let's not get off track. I'm gonna show the Matthews cross check on Darlene because you're right. That is a pretty comparable play.
It's very comparable.
Carter back across. Michael Bunting.
So cross check.
Blocked before it got to the net, and Jeff Skinner will roll it down the ice.
Oh, look, Justin Hole. I forgot about that.
We've got action at the other end with Darlene, and now Bunting steps in. Matthews was
getting in it with Darlene, got knocked over twice, and he came back with a heavy retaliation cross check across the head, and the arm went up. They're still jawing, and they're both going to go away.
We'll see it here in a second.
The cross check was a bad one for Matthews. You got to be worried about. They did a good job of pressuring through the middle, opening up that seam. The shot never got through. Here's
the back.
The interaction of first 2 times, a
Shoulder.
knockdown, and then this.
Yeah.
That's a tough cross check right off the side. Darlene doesn't waver. Anderson gets in the middle. Bunting tries to come around. But it's that's the problem.
So that is not acceptable in the slightest.
No. But that's 2 guys scuffling and hitting each other. They're fighting, they're wrestling, they're hacking each other.
It was more heated.
Yes.
It looked like it had more force than Berggren's. That's the only thing. Matthews, it was faster. Now, I'm assuming neither of these guys meant to hit the other person in the neck/head area, but
the one thing I saw in that clip, it's not to interrupt, but Matthews, his cross check came down a little bit. So it looked like he was aiming for her shoulder, and the fact that in the way it came down, but the way Darlene was standing, it looked like a direct cross check to the head. But still, it's like you shouldn't be cross checking, punch it. Like as long as you're punching, the NHL thinks it's fine. But as soon as stick meets contact, that's where the issue is. But
I think it should have been a game. That's my personal opinion. I don't find it quite as bad as the Matthews one on Darlene, but I think it should have been a game.
So just before Matthews got decked, he got half cross-checked, half punched right in the middle of the back in front of the net. Darlene initiated it. Now, rule number 1 of hockey, they're always going to punish the retaliation. It's going to happen. But those are 2 guys that are scuffling. Darlene ended up getting the worst of it. But that's where I think it's comparable. That a fine isn't enough in that situation because it was a much lesser of a scuffle than it was. That Duar just kind of bumped him. Like he just kind of threw his side at him, just kind of like, hey, back off. I'm here. Like I'm not doing anything. Just stop. And then Berggren came in with the cross check. Was
it uncalled for? Yes. So yeah, I think we can both agree the player safety department probably should have handed out, like a game or 2. Their process is really in depth. As much as we do complain about what they hand out, I listened to The Sheet with Jeff Merrick the other day, and he had Patrick Burke on, son of Brian Burke. Mm-hmm. Patrick is one of the higher up guys in the player safety department, and he went on for a little bit explaining how they work out the suspensions. So there's multiple factors that go in, For one, player history, how long they played, have they been a clean player for 500 games, 1,000 games, and then was there an intent to injure? Was it an accident? That's a big factor in it. Then before or after the whistle, another huge factor. And did the player get injured that they were hitting in whatever way? Plug in the good old laptop. There we go.
See, that's one of the issues that I have is did the player get injured? So as long as the guy didn't get injured, well, we'll just take a little bit of money, slap him on the wrist, send him on his way. But you broke his jaw, so now you're going to get 2 game suspension. Like, so if the guy's wearing a cage, he's not going to break his jaw, but it's still the same thing. So
depends on history too.
But why should the player getting hit, or like, why should the other player's injury have a factor in that? Like, I don't believe their injury should have a factor in the ultimate decision. So a guy hacks a guy, a dirty slash. So the difference of a torn muscle or pulled muscle versus a broken leg should determine whether it's a 5 game or a 10 game suspension. It shouldn't matter.
I can see that point, but there's other factors. It's not just that.
No, I know, but I'm saying that shouldn't. My point is that it shouldn't be a factor. The other factors I completely agree with. I have no issue with that. It's did the guy get injured? So the quote,
I get that.
That's my issue. Happy Gilmore, he's got the record as the only player to take his skate off and try and stab somebody. Great.
That's loud.
Great movie. Happy Gilmore, the movie, you've seen that movie. So
not for a long time, but yes.
Amazing movie. But you know what I mean? Like, so he tried to. So that means it's a 2, but if he actually did, that means it's a 10.
I see your point, but I also see the player safety department's point.
I agree on all the other criteria. I just don't think the injury.
There was more to it than that, by the way. I really dumbed it down there. He explained it much more in depth. Honestly, hats off to him to go on a podcast and, being in the public eye, because it's not exactly something the player safety department really does. Normally, like, okay, here it is, and then no one talks to them. That's it.
Yeah.
People complain online, but they don't have to actually hear it. They just have to avoid it.
Yeah, or like that one video they released discussing the Ryan Reeves and the White Cloud on Knives hits. Like,
we won't watch that video, but that was such a great educational piece explaining the difference between the Reeves on Nurse hit, the White Cloud on Knives hit, and a missing one.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of that one, but I know what you're talking about.
Another suspension. It's going to bother me. I'm searching it up quick.
All right. Your OCD can take hold here.
It was a great piece just showing what's allowed and why they do it differently. Okay, here we go. So Jeannot, illegal check to the head. Tanner Jeannot.
I don't remember that one, but
anyway,
that's besides the point.
It explained it quite well why they were different plays, why they were different hits. How Reeves and Jeannot specifically targeted the head. I believe it was Jeannot on Larkin, but don't quote me on that.
I can't remember that hit, so your guess is as good as mine.
Anyways, they showed how Reeves and Jeannot both made a line to the player on their blind side, and how it put that player in a very vulnerable position with no time to react. Because Nurse had basically no time. It was just he turned the net and there was Reeves. And the player that Jeannot hit didn't even see it coming. He was completely blindsided by it. So very dangerous when you can't brace for the hit.
Yeah.
And then White Cloud, on the other hand, he was going down the ice, or Knives was going down the ice. White Cloud stood him up, but the important pieces of why White Cloud didn't get the suspension or any other discipline, he didn't leave his feet for the hit. He was knocked up after, but that was just the force of the two of them colliding. He did not specifically target the head as the primary point of contact, and they actually worded it differently now. So They don't care where the primary point is. They care
That's the
where
main
most of the
point.
force goes.
The main point of contact.
No, not even that. He explained basically they don't care if you hit head first. And this is why White Cloud didn't get it. He may have hit near the head first, but the majority of that force went to Nye's body. That's why it was okay. And they slowed it down and showed the physics. But that's what made it an okay hit and not suspendable.
So I love that they came out with a video like that. It's something they haven't done in the past. I feel like
not often, no.
They should have done this 5 years ago and more consistently since. Because I feel like every fan wants this. Every fan wants to see this. They want to know. Like, for example, the Berggren. Like, I'd be interested to know why they decided on a fine and not a 2-game suspension or 1 game or 3 games, whatever you want to call it. I'd be interested. Like, I'd love to see their reasoning on that one.
I can tell you why they don't do videos all the time.
Because there'd be too many.
He explained it quite nicely. So, the video that they made, it took a lot of manpower, a lot of hours put into the video to make it perfect and make it not dumbed down to the fan level, but to make it clear to everyone so there was no questions at all. Like, I watched that video after I heard about it on the podcast, and I have no questions. It's explained perfectly. There's no gray area, no wondering, well, why is this way? Everything's explained to a T, so I can see the amount of effort that goes into making a video like that for the safety department. And honestly, they have more important things to do. They have to watch all the games and then flag anything that could potentially be suspendable. You know?
Yeah, either way, I get that. If they could do this a couple more times, like a couple times a season, even, it's still better than not doing it at all, like they've done basically for the rest of the history of the NHL. I think
they do it. This isn't the only video out there. They just don't do it that often.
A couple times a season where you're explaining a couple, I think that would be awesome. Like, that's something I feel like a lot of fans would love to see. And as a Leaf fan, I would love to see the decision making on the Berggren hit, why it was just a probably max fine based on their calculation with the player's salary, blah, 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 or why it wasn't 2 games. But I know that there's a lot of that going on. They'd be releasing a lot, but even just a few videos a year, it would be very interesting to see.
It would be, that's for sure.
But
one little story that Patrick Burke told. So, the man sounds exactly like his father. I'm not joking. If he said he had Brian Burke on the show, I would have believed it. I've only heard Brian speak a little bit, but they sound very similar. And Patrick picked up the phone one time when he was at home doing whatever. It was his dad's cell phone, so he answered it, and he said, Brian Burke's phone. And I forget what other manager it was, but it was another GM at the time, and just started laying into him and goes, you effing asshole, why did you make this trade? And just went on for 20 minutes, and poor Patrick's trying to be like, sir, no, this is Patrick. And eventually, after 20 minutes, he got through, and the guy immediately, oh, hey Patrick, how's it going, bud? After yelling at this poor guy for 20 minutes about some trade that Brian made.
That was amazing.
Can you let your dad know that I called? Just make sure to remember this one's important. Brian goes, I don't think I'm going to forget this conversation for a long time.
That's amazing. I had never heard that before. And now I'm very glad I did. That is hilarious. One thing that I always made me laugh, Brian Burke, the way he dressed, it reminded me of a guy coming off of a business, like a long day of meetings, and he's just driving home and he's just undid his collar, undid the tie so he could like loosen up a little bit. Am I right? Like every interview that you ever see, he doesn't have his tie done up. It's just draping over his shoulders like my earphones.
Not every interview, but yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, it's hilarious. When you're in that kind of position, I guess you can make whatever fashion statement you want, I guess. But I think it's hilarious. But just a fun fact. I always laughed at it when I was younger, watching Brian Burke as the GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Because he every single time it would cut to the GM's box, and during Leafs games, you'd see Brian Burke sitting up there with a tie around his shoulders, and it always made me chuckle.
Speaking of GMs, we got some news on a certain GM in New York, Chris Drury.
Nice segue.
The Rangers players had a private meeting, players only, to discuss all the antics that have gone on, basically, and how they're not necessarily happy with Drury and how they're not happy with their own play, obviously.
So you're saying they're going to go marching down Drury Lane? For people who can't,
my popcorn.
For people who can't see the podcast, Andrew is shaking his head like, oh, really?
Oh yes, for our Spotify listeners, I've shook my head a few times this episode, also because I've been eating snacks.
Yes, that's why. Not the, oh, really? Here he goes again. Head shake that you're doing. Not because of that?
No, not at all.
Oh, just finish your pinto beans.
I'm not judging you in the slices.
Oh, in the slices? Not judging the slices.
Just let me eat my popcorn.
Are you sure it's not pinto beans?
Pinto bean, right there.
Yeah, the other side, maybe pointing to the other side, maybe could chuckle a little bit.
Okay. Moving on from these
from this Drury
repetitive
topic.
dad jokes.
Chris Drury.
So, what do we think is going on with the Rangers? I mean, we've already discussed them a lot and their lack of success, but what's going to go on with the players having their own meeting to talk about the GM? I mean, there is someone above them. They can fire the GM if they want. The owner, he's not happy.
You have
one phone call and he's gone.
Yes. How it's happened so quickly, I doubt that they have a backup that they're looking to hire.
There's always an assistant or someone that can step up within as a temporary.
I agree.
But if the players aren't happy, even just getting him out of there and having a temp might change the atmosphere. Think about it. Like, if you had a really bad boss who made terrible decisions for the company you work at, but he leaves, all of a sudden you can go to work and not have to deal with him anymore. Maybe it's still not a great setup, but there's hope that that's going to improve now.
So the reason why he's being called out, as everybody probably knows, but just a quick refresher, you had Barclay Goodrow, who had a no trade clause. Well, there was limited, I can't remember, but he did have a no trade, right?
He had a no trade clause.
But basically, they wanted to dump his salary cap, so they put him on waivers, and he was claimed by the San Jose Sharks. And then obviously the big topic, the one that gained more notoriety. Jeez,
Jacob Trouba.
Yeah, they
threatened to be put on waivers, and then he was like, "Fine, I'll waive my no trade clause," and traded to Ducks. It's funny how often they trade their captains. You know, it does happen that you trade a captain, but for the Rangers to do it so much,
nobody wants to see now.
I bet not. Unless you have a no movement clause.
Well, if Chris Drury is there, I'm sure he'd find some sort of way. You're sitting tonight. You're not playing. You don't want to waive it? You're not playing.
I mean, he could, but at that point, if you don't give no movement clauses to just anyone, so if it's Panarin, I don't know if he has one, but let's say Shesterkin, since we know he does. Are you going to bench one of the best goalies in the league?
If you're desperate,
are you going to be that stubborn?
I wouldn't be, but some people would. I think the best way to handle it, personally, if I was a GM, which I'm not and have no intentions of being one because I couldn't do it. The best way
you can do it. Co-GMs, let's go.
I'm not suited to be a GM. I know that. I couldn't do it even with the amount of training. But anyway, how I would handle that is more trying to paint. I'd try and more maybe paint a picture of why this is a positive thing and basically try and convince you why you should move this in your benefit to why it helps you. Like, do you really want to play for the Rangers? Look, you can go here. I know you like having some quiet nights. You can go to LA. You can be a star there on a really good team. And you can walk down the street. Nobody will bother you. You can go out for breakfast, lunch, dinner. You can walk in, and until all your gear is on, especially as a goalie, until all your gear is on, they won't recognize you.
That's true. There's bigger fish in LA, to say the least.
That's why, like, Doughty was basically quoted saying why he wouldn't come to Toronto, and that was his reason, was because he basically couldn't go take a shower if his curtains were open without getting some sort of media attention. Like, that's the way it is in Toronto. Now, we all know Nikita Grabankin is loving that.
But now, back to the Rangers.
Mr.
Toronto. I'll be interested to see how the players respond. I'm hoping they just tank. I hope they suck. I'm a Sens fan. I want that wild card spot. So,
they're the only team that's earned less points in the last 10 games than the Buffalo Sabres.
Poor Sabres.
Sorry, we have to do some Sabre rambling there. But that being said, he's shaking his head again. Like, okay, I'm done with these. But
we're never going to be done with those. I'll just judge them.
It's how much do we think of a factor that Chris Drury is making? How much do you think of a factor he's having on this team in their performance? Maybe partially because of Gaudreau, or maybe because Trouba's that's been going on since the summer. The first times that he was approached by this was back in the summer. So do you think that's had an impact on their team?
He's the captain. He's probably told other players. So yeah, definitely, especially when it's gone down to, okay, you're going to move that no trade clause, just waive it, or we're going to waive you. But we talked about that a lot. We'll see what happens with the Rangers. We'll see if ownership says, okay, Drury, you're getting the boot, or if they make, I guess another trade now, considering that they traded Kakko.
Fun namesake. Kakko.
I love his name.
Yeah. He's 23 years old. He's got a high ceiling, but it's just he hasn't panned out just yet. But again,
I thought he was 24.
23, I believe.
24 in February. My bad.
Oh, so I'm right.
For once.
For once. All right. But yeah, like, you're doing this to your captain.
Since we've already talked about it, we can get into the Kakko trade.
All right.
So, Kakko to the Kraken in exchange for Will Borgen, a third, and a sixth. What do we think? Will Borgen, nothing wrong with him. He's a bottom pair defenseman, though.
Bottom pair defenseman.
And I see a Kakko that's finally found some consistency this year. Maybe not a huge point scorer, but he's been consistently good. You can put him out there without the worry of, is he going to do something? Is he going to be bad, turn over the puck? No, he's been consistent. He's a guy that you've been able to throw out and trust. But
inconsistency has been his career so far. Like he might go on like a 5 points in 2 game spurt or extend that over 6-7 games, and then he'll shut off for 20. Almost like a young Nikolai Ehlers in that sense. Very different style playing, obviously, but
yes, but he's been consistent this season at least. So they scratch him, and honestly, he wasn't the player to scratch. He was pissed about it, and he had right to be. And then they played him, and he played the second lowest amount that he's played all season as far as ice time goes.
Mm-hmm.
So Borgen, like, nothing against the guy, but he's a bottom pair. That's what he's going to be, and that's fine. You need bottom pair defensemen, but you give Borgen a 3rd and a 6th for a guy that could slot into your top 6. If not, he's definitely slotted into your top 9. That's pretty damn solid in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Now, Kakko, he's on almost a 40-point pace right now, which isn't terrible, but like as a guy you're expecting, because I believe they've been playing him on like rotating between the second and third line, right?
I believe he was played on the 3rd for the most part.
As a third liner, 40 points is not bad at all. But you're also hoping that you're going to do some penalty killing as well, right? Like you're not. Well, it's not like the Leafs where like your top 2 lines are your penalty killers. You're hoping those depth guys have some.
So Eli Tolvanen was picked up on waivers by the Kraken either last year or the year before. Nashville put him on, and he lit it up when he was there. He's done well. He's been a consistent scorer. Nashville gave up on him too quickly. Could this be the same case? Clearly, Seattle has some ability to develop guys, at least better than the Rangers, so not a high bar to beat, but still.
Seattle's been in the league for, 6 years now? Something like that?
Like God, it hasn't been 6 years.
Like, it hasn't been a lot. So to say that they can develop players, I don't know, but they've been a mediocre team every year, whether they've made the playoffs or not. But that's kind of more what you expect from an expansion team, not like the Vegas Golden Knights that go to the Stanley Cup Finals. But
yeah, the Vegas Knights were a true Cinderella run. Everyone had a career year.
And the GM put together the Washington Capitals that won. And then he moved to, like, he got hired by the Vegas Golden Knights, put together that team. So his previous work lost to his current work.
Ironic. Seattle started in the 21-22 season.
Okay, so it's their 21-22, so it's their 3rd season.
Yeah, they haven't been around that long. I do love their logo. It's simple but nice. I just want to look at their lines now and see. Their winger depth has always been good. It's their center depth that was lacking.
They've always had that. And Chandler Stevenson, he's on the Seattle. Like it's
an okay contract for now. We talked about it. He's not, true number 1 or anything.
No.
But he's a good player.
Right now, he'd be a respectable 3rd. Like, he'd be a very respectable guy that you could throw between your 2nd and your 3rd line.
So they don't have this updated to include our buddy Kakko there. But you look at the winger depth, it's very good. Their center depth, it's very good. They're just missing that top end talent that Matty Beniers could turn into, or if they're really lucky, Shane Wright could turn into.
Yeah.
But their winger depth is very good. They're just a team that's missing true stars. That's all. I think there's lots of good players, and I think their depth is great. Even defensively, like Vince Dunn, good. Montour, not as good as last year, but still good. Larson, Alexiak, all acceptable to have in your top 4, but where's your number 1 D-man? It would be Vince Dunn.
historically you'd think that it would be Adam Larson because he was a really strong defenseman. He's tailed off in the last few years. He's
a
never
little bit
gotten
older
back.
too.
Yeah, he's never going to be. But I think they were hoping maybe that he would return to that form when he got traded from the Devils for Taylor Hall. I think they're hoping that he can return to something close to that, maybe. But
it's possible.
But going back to Borgen, as a third pairing defenseman, he's a lot cheaper of an option, and he's a lot cheaper of an option than Trouba, but they somewhat similar in the physical sense. Borgen's not a small guy. He's 6'3", 204. He's averaging close to 2 1/3, 2.3 hits per game ish for over his entire career, and that's what they were hoping for that Trouba would be. Now, Will Borgen is just also $5.5 million less of a cap hit than Trouba was. The problem with exactly. So he's got 577 hits in 247 games played in the NHL, which is 2.33 hits per game.
Very solid.
So I was off by 0.3.
And yes, good.
0.03 on that. But he's a cheaper option. Trouba was not the defenseman that the New York Rangers wanted him to be. They wanted him to be a shutdown defenseman, and he's never been that.
Okay. We talked about Trouba one hell of a lot.
Yeah. Sorry.
I think.
Let's go plug in my laptop. My laptop's dying. Get to the charger. Sorry.
No more. Cut off.
You're cut off. Come on, I'm just having fun, man.
I think it's an okay trade for both teams. I'd give the Kraken the edge in this, considering how low overpriced they paid. And we'll let Dave get his stuff fixed up there.
Yeah, don't worry, it's coming. But I don't know. I think it's a good team for everybody involved. The Kraken have not had the scoring.
I don't think it's that good for the Rangers.
I don't think it's bad because I don't think it's a bad trade for the Rangers.
Okay, the Rangers are struggling offensively. I think we can agree on that.
Yes.
So you take a 40-point guy out, not a huge scorer, but still a 40-point guy, and you don't really replace him. You replace a bottom pairing defenseman that you traded away. So now all of a sudden, you don't have a lot of firepower up front. Zibanejad's doing meh. Kreider's doing bad. Will Cully is doing great. Lafreniere is doing okay. Panarin, is he out injured? I'm not seeing him projected on the lines here.
Oh, wait, he's getting traded.
Yeah.
But no, I think maybe this is signifying that there's more trades to come.
Panarin is out injured.
He is?
That's my bad. I should have known that.
That's a big blow.
Oh, yeah. Guy that's been top 5 in points the past few years consistently. So
yeah, that stings.
But look at what they have after that. You can't lose one player and be screwed for offense. You can't expect Lafreniere, Coley to carry this team. Heedle's been doing... He's projected as their first-line center. I don't know if he's been doing good enough for that.
Is he turning into that?
That's long gone. I mean, he could still be okay, but he's 25 years old. Unless he's a really late bloomer, I don't see that happening. He has 12 points in 24 games this year. So, not bad. That's a 41-point pace, but that is not first-line center pace. I'll tell you that much.
So, the reason why I like this trade for Seattle is because they're getting some depth scoring. Like he's not gonna he might be able to compete. Maybe the change of scenery out of New York needs to really build into what he can be. They're
Honestly,
getting young.
I don't think it's going to do that much, but continue.
But you also for the reason why Will Borgen going to the Rangers, I can see Trouba wasn't producing amazingly on the back end. Will Borgen isn't a point producer, but they needed a guy who's more defensively sound. And Trouba was playing third line. He was playing on their third line. Trouba was playing it on their third D pairing. So you're cutting out an $8 million for your third pair.
Exactly.
You're bringing back. Stop it. You're bringing back 2.5 in Will Borgen.
Stop what?
You're muting Mike pretty frequently there, buddy.
Look at that. Still got popcorn left. I'm sure the people don't want to hear me chew. They've already heard me chew a lot, so I will talk. Keep going.
Is it Big League Chew? No. Anyway, they need to fill in that spot that Trouba made, that Trouba's departure made, and I think Borgen will slot right in there. He's not going to replace one of the top guys, but they needed that depth defenseman. And who's to say? I haven't heard anything, but who's to say Kakko? Did he want out? Did he want to change of scenery? Does Seattle have someone that they could replace Will Borgen with, in their depth?
Kakko did not want out. You could tell by the way he commented that he was pissed that he was scratched. That he had no reason to be scratched, and other guys could have been scratched before him that weren't performing as well. Especially considering Panarin's out. What the heck are you doing scratching him?
So based on his reaction, and that's what's known to us, could New York have been shipping him out because of potential attitude issues? Could there have been something behind the scenes where if he's saying that out in public, could there have been much more behind the scenes?
I'm sorry, that's not that much attitude. That would be like scratching you or me when we're playing. It's if we get a drunk Mr. Novak on, we want to scratch him. That's one thing, but scratching you or me doesn't make sense.
He's a guy of the past.
He is.
But
it just doesn't make sense to scratch him unless they were shopping him at the time.
I think Seattle wins this trade. Now, what were the other pieces you said?
Borgen, a third, and a sixth.
A third and a sixth.
Yeah.
And it was just Kakko going the other way?
Just Kakko. A sixth is nothing. I'm sorry. People sometimes overvalue picks. The chances of a 6th-round pick becoming a player for you, low. Third, a little bit higher, but still not great.
Goaltending, that's where a lot of goaltenders are picked. Sometimes depth defensemen. A 6, you can probably package off, but the third.
We're in the 2024 season. Let's go back to the 2020 draft.
2020. Can you share your screen?
Just hold on. Have some patience. You need to click buttons here. It's a lot of work,
Sometimes.
Yes, my fiance. I push her buttons all the time.
We're guys, that's what we do.
Can you tell her that?
I'm trying to tell my wife that.
Okay, so okay, I'll tell your wife. You tell my fiance. All the deal.
We'll trade.
Of the sixth
Priorities.
round here, you have 3 players that have played NHL games. One is from Ottawa. I know Reinhardt. He's been a good AHL guy, hardworking, but he's not going to be a permanent piece on the roster. Matthew Rempe. Everyone knows Rempe. He's a big body who can hit, but he is useless as far as actual NHL skill goes. The only player that's played a significant amount of games is Niels Ahmet. I don't know this guy, and he's put up 25 points in 116 games, so
yeah.
4th line.
Forgive me. I'm sure I can be forgiven for not knowing my name. I don't know.
He's on Colorado, or at least he was drafted by Colorado. So that 6th round pick to me is not a big deal for the player they're getting back. The 3rd round pick is the real payment. Obviously, there's a few more guys that make it. Like Damon Hunt's played a little bit for the Wild this year, and 1 assist. He's more of a defensive defenseman from my understanding anyway.
Topin Nimilla, I've heard nothing but good things about him in the Leafs organization with the Marlies. He's like he's like a couple of injuries away from, I think, being called up possibly.
Which player was that?
Topin Nimilla.
Okay.
I'm sure I'm butchering that last name. Niemela. Niemela. That's a great name, 88th overall. Leo Loof.
Oh, Topin. Okay, I see. But he still hasn't played a game, and he was drafted in 2020. If you want to look here for guys that have played a bit more.
LaFerriere.
Exactly. Nico Dawes. He's been solid as far as goaltending goes, for the most part. Levi Merlanen is a Sens goalie. I'll just talk a little bit about him. He's been very solid in the AHL, and he was solid over in Finland, Sweden. I forget what league he played in there, but he's just been a good goalie prospect. But still, 2020, he's played 2 games. That's it. So even in the 3rd round, you only have 1, maybe 2 significant guys that have played a decent amount of games. We'll include Nico Dawes. We'll say 3 because he's a goalie, so he doesn't play as much. But outside of that, not much. So
just to take a quick look at the 4th round. Sorry, scroll back up there.
It drops off.
Oh, go up a bit. There's somebody I thought I saw there. Up. Mike. No, it's Mike Benning. Never mind.
But my point is, a 3rd and a 6th is not a lot to give up. The main piece going back is that depth defenseman in Mr. Will Morgan. So it's a good trade. It's not that it's a terrible trade
for either side
for the Rangers, but at the same time, it is. You've drafted this guy 2nd overall, and that was just such a waste.
Mm-hmm. Maybe Kakko was, he just needed to change the scenery. Maybe there could have been something behind the scenes there, but either way, I think Seattle's going to be very happy with who they brought in.
So obviously, do I.
Third rounders they can be great, can be busts, but you're not always losing huge value in a 3rd round pick.
Yeah, statistically, they're not giving up a lot.
Those are third rounders are, for the most part, 3rd rounders are like guys who are going to be 2 or 3 year guys. Like someone who slotted in, gets traded, plays a couple games, and
this gives them a guy now, a young guy at that.
Yeah, and so Seattle's a middle of the pack goals for, middle of the pack goals against. Well, shipping out Will Borgen, I don't think hurts them defensively.
They're a very mediocre team with a very good goalie. But other than that, they're fairly mediocre.
Trading a physical style defenseman like that, who's got some body size, does that tell you maybe they're not playoff ready? Like they don't expect to make the playoffs? Because
they're still in the fight. When you have Decore playing like he is, you're not going to count yourselves out. Right now, they still have cap space too. They have 3.3. Hey, Ullmark, as far as I'm concerned, if he plays like this the rest of the season, which is unlikely, and carries Ottawa to the playoffs, he's in the conversation for the Hart, but we'll see. We'll get into that another time, but
yeah.
I just want to search up Kakko's contract here. So he's signed just this season, 2.4 mil, and he's an RFA still. This will be his last off season as an RFA. Then he goes to UFA status the following off season. But if they can sign him to a long-term deal, relatively cheap, it could pay off.
The rest of the season is obviously going to be huge for both sides in determining what his value truly is.
For sure.
So how much do you think that that RFA status at the end of the season, do you think that is a player in why he got shipped out? Because the Rangers do have a few guys that they have to, well, one less, but they have a few guys that they're going to have to re-sign pretty soon.
I mean, it saves them a little bit of a headache, I guess. They signed Shesterkin to that extension and everything, but their cap space isn't terrible. You know, with that trade, they now have 7.2 mil, and they have to re-sign Riley Smith if they want to, but they probably won't. Jimmy BC's on a league minimum, so if he stays, he'll probably sign another league minimum. The only player that they're going to have to pay any sort of real amount is Will Coley, because kid's lighting it up this year at 22.
Yeah, he's having a great year.
So open up some space for him, I guess. That helps. Ryan Lindgren's another one that they're going to have to find a way to pay. 26-year-old left shot D-man, their top 4 guy.
Unfortunately, just the left shot is being a left shot versus right shot defenseman in the NHL is a matter. It could be like the difference of $1 million and a half a year.
You know, I'm gonna take back what I said. They're not gonna have that easy of a time. They have Lindgren, Keandre Miller, William Borgen now.
If they want to resign him.
Yeah, he's 27. He's a bottom pairing D. It's what he is, but they kind of need that a little bit.
2.5 is probably pretty, maybe 3 with the cap going up.
He's at 2.7 right now.
2.7? I thought it was 2.5. You're right, 2.7.
Yeah.
But we're talking $200,000. No, I would love to have it at $200,000 a year.
Yeah, to us normal people, it's like, oh, yeah. That's like a whole salary for someone that's well off.
You could have gone for
NHL
3
players.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Honestly, they have some work to do.
Yeah. So is maybe Kakko does that play into it? One less headache that they have to deal with? Because you don't know what his value is going to be. And
shout out to Puckpedia for having this function. This is their projected cap space for next year. 17 mil. So that means they have 17 million to re-sign these players.
17 mil.
Now,
that's not a lot
let me double check. Does that include? That does not include a cap increase. So that's with it at 88 mil like it is now.
And what's it going to? 92?
Don't quote me. I'm not sure on that. So they'll have a little bit more to play with, but still. So they drop Smith. That's pointless. Will Cully, they have to re-sign. He's a 22-year-old guy that can score goals and plays good. It's just they're going to have to bridge deal him. to keep it cheaper. Because this is his first real breakout season, so it's going to be like, here's some money, shorter deal, prove that you can keep it going. And we'll worry about paying you more later. Keandre Miller's proven that he's a good top 4 D-man. Lindgren's proven that he's a good top 4 D-man. Those guys are going to cost some money.
92.4 is going to be the new cap projection. So they're getting an extra $4 million cap, so 21 million-ish, give or take. That's not as grim, but...
Does Keandre Miller demand $8 million? A lot of defensemen are signing for around that. A lot of young guys, some long-term, some short-term. I'm not going to talk about Miller like he's some elite player like a Hughes or Makar or Dahlin, but he's a solid D-man.
He is a solid defenseman. Now, it's one of the big things with these contracts. $8 million this current year is $9 million next year, $10 million the year after. So that's why players are signing bigger contracts than what we feel their actual worth is because the cap's projected, what was it, like 2028? Or it's supposed to be like 100 million or something like that?
What's going up?
Exactly.
So Miller, let's see.
That's why
2022, 2023, he had 43 points in 79 games, plus 12. Pretty good stats. Last season, he had 30 and 80, plus 5. Not quite as good, but still decent. This season, he has 6 and 28 and a minus 5.
On the Rangers, it's not terrible.
Considering the season the Rangers are having, yeah,
it's a positive factor on that, even though it's negative. It's like who would you have Keandre Miller? For the listeners that don't know who he is, who would you say would be a comparable to him? Like the most comparable, like one of the more comparable players to a guy like that.
Let me double check something, but I think I have an idea who.
Because he's a penalty killer.
Maybe Vince Dunn?
Vince Dunn. No, Vince Dunn, he's on that top line for Seattle.
He is. He's their number 1 D-man. No question about it.
On many other teams, he wouldn't be.
No.
But Seattle,
I don't think Miller is a true number 1. I think he's a solid top pairing guy or top 4 guy. You can pair him with a number 1, and he'll do good.
I can agree with that. Most teams, he'd probably be a top 4. He's still, again, like he's 24 years old. He's not.
There's not many teams that he wouldn't be a top 4 on.
No. He's not as physical as Will Morgan, but he's blocking about 1.25 shots a game. As defenseman, that's pretty standard.
Some teams are pretty easy, but like if you look at Anaheim, obviously he's top 4 on there. Boston, easily. Probably slot into that second pairing.
The way Zadorov has been playing this season, that makes it easier for Miller to slip in on that top 4.
You could probably argue Buffalo. You might not, because they like that Samuelson power pair, and then you have Dahlin, who's out right now, so he's injured.
No,
so yeah,
sorry.
They also have Byram on the left-hand side, so it would be toss-up.
Yeah. I do like Miller. I think he's a great defenseman.
I think he'd get it over Byram, but I don't think he'd never end up on Buffalo. They have too many young D. That's all.
Nor would he want to go to Buffalo.
No one wants to go to Buffalo.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. I can see him. I can make a case for 8 mil. I think probably
with the cap going up, you can.
The cap going up, I can see that. 8 million. But knowing how Chris Drury's presented himself in the last 12 months, he's going to play, every GM is going to do it, but he's probably like my way. Like, he's shown that he's trying to show that he's my way or the highway. And it's like, I have a hard time thinking he's going to get 8 million out of Drury. But if they want to keep him, that's what they're going to probably what
we'll
they're
going to pay. They could probably sign him a little bit less. It just depends on how greedy he is, basically, how much he wants that payday.
Or if he's still for him, yeah. Or if Drury's still around. Because those players want him out.
Drury is on the hot seat.
The players want him out, like they're mutinying.
He's on the hot seat, whether the players want him out or not. After that trade and after what's happened this season, he's on the hot seat. Moving on from that, though, we've been talking about that for a while now.
It's been a chunk.
Connor Hellebuyck, fastest American goaltender to 20 wins.
The puck stops there.
Yes, the puck stops there. Another classic Dave joke, everyone.
One more for this one. He signed to Hellebuyck. That's a pretty good contract right now.
I'm not even going to argue that because it is a good contract. I'll let that one slide. Just because I'm feeling nice.
Oh, okay. Oh, is it the Christmas spirit coming out of you?
No.
Oh, okay.
We're almost there, though. That's next week. I guess I should be a little bit happier about that.
My Christmas decorations have been up on my front lawn for almost a month now.
And you've only had one Karen complaint.
Yeah, she's complained every year for the last 4 years since we moved into the house. And yeah, not to get too far into that, but yeah, I didn't want to say he's a Grinch because growing up, you realize the Grinch is just a guy who was bullied his entire life and wanted nothing to do with anybody. Like, he's painted to such a bad character, but is he really? He got tormented as a child, and are you surprised they wanted nothing to do with everybody until he gave them forgiveness, more or less? But anyway, yes, Hellebuyck. He is a Grinch in that net. No, but nothing gets by him.
Hellebuyck is the best goalie in the league right now, as far as I'm concerned. Even better than Shesterkin. Shesterkin hasn't been consistent. Shesterkin has done better in the playoffs, so you can make that argument, but Hellebuyck's been just spectacular. Lights out. He's been on one hell of a run.
Like, he started 26 games this season so far. He's got 20 wins in 26 games with 3 shutouts.
Yeah, that must be
a 926 save percentage, I believe it is.
Yep.
Now they have pretty good defense sitting in front of them, and their forwards are. You got the power play wizard in Kyle Connor. He's got 8 power play goals.
Winnipeg has a good team. Maybe not the crazy start that they had. Not that good, but they have a good team. And they have guys in contract years, so that helps.
Yep. But Hellebuyck, we could say how great he is, and his stats speak for itself. He's 926 save percentage. Got 26 starts and 20 wins. He's 25-1 in 26 games now. He was also a big part of that 15-1 run. The only loss was to the Leafs. Thank you. But
yeah.
Yeah, no, it speaks volumes to the type of goalie he is and the talent that he has. And it just shows you the Team USA really can't go wrong with any of their goalies that they have between Hellebuyck, Ottinger, and maybe a lesser extent Swayman. But between Hellebuyck and Ottinger, like
we're just gonna pause here for a minute. We'll be right back, everyone.
Andrew has buttery fingers and he's washing them off from popcorn. And he sat back down in his chair. Dum dum.
Well, I hope everyone enjoyed Morrissey's rendition of the Jeopardy music. At least you didn't have to see them like I did.
Oh,
yeah, I just wanted to get a glass of water. I wasn't washing my hands.
A glass of water.
Ran out of ginger ale. But yeah, Hellebuyck, he's one of the best goalies out there. He's the reason that the Jets are as good as they are, amongst others, but he's one of the biggest reasons, if not the biggest. And honestly, just congrats to him. 20 wins in 26 games is insane to start the season,
Yeah.
Just to be in that perfect form right away.
Mm-hmm. There's only one goalie that's played over 15 games so far this season with a higher save percentage than Hellebuyck. And that's Anthony Stolarz.
Okay, he's one of my guesses.
And his record is 9-5-2.
Experience Leafs hockey.
So, and again, the difference is 927 for Stolarz versus 926 for Hellebuyck.
Look at these numbers for Hellebuyck, though. So shutout to start the year, then 962, 963. He had an off night in San Jose, they still won, but 864, 931, 906, 905. Off night with Tampa, they still won, 867. Then a shutout, 970, 917. And the second loss of the year for them was to Florida. He had an 839. Then bounced back with a win against Florida with an 870 somehow. But 944, 977, 933, 906, 903, 933. Like, all of these are just fantastic numbers.
Yeah. So he's obviously on pace for a career year. It's his highest save percentage that he's had. Like, he's been consistently at 9.91 as his worst season in 2021-22. But he's on pace right now for 7 shutouts for this year. His career high is 5. He already has 3 this season. And that
is pretty good.
That's based on his average season so far in the last 5 seasons. His average season is 58 games played. So prorating 3 games over 26, prorating that to 58. Like, he's on pace for about just under 7 shutouts.
Is a league-leading number, by the way. He's tied with a few other individuals. He's tied with Ullmark, Saros, Montembeault, Lankinen. But that is a tie for the league for shutouts, which maybe Ullmark can take from him.
First and
but yeah,
the Sens are a long way from the Winnipeg Jets.
Hey, I'm not saying they're the Winnipeg Jets. I'm just saying we got a good goalie. Let me be happy. How many seasons it's been since we had consistent goaltending?
Now, I heard it's cold in Winnipeg. Does that factor?
I swear to God, if this is another dad joke.
No, I'm just saying it's cold in Winnipeg. Will that factor into the season? Because a lot of players don't want to play in Winnipeg because of how cold it is. And if you don't know that by living there, you know that because you know somebody who has in Canada, and they'll tell you it's cold.
Winnipeg cold, yes, that is true.
I remember I was talking with one of my buddies. He moved out there, and he moved out there for a couple of years. He was ice fishing on Lake Winnipeg the one year, and I was out in the boat while I was messaging him here in Ontario. I was out fishing on the boat, fishing for pre-spawn pike because they're invasive in the area that I'm fishing. They're open all season. And he was still drilling through almost 2 feet of ice.
Yeah, Winnipeg's cold.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I have to say, the atmosphere of their arena with the whole whiteout thing, that is fantastic. I know they don't always sell out their arena, and that's been a slight issue, but overall, it's just really cool. And they're the Jets, cool team, cool history, like their jerseys, all that good stuff. And the team they put together, considering it's cold and people might not want to live there, is pretty damn good. You know what the trick is here? Or part of the trick? You look at Nikolai Ehlers. He's probably used to the cold where he's from. Look at Velarde, probably used to the cold. Niederreiter. I swear to God, that could be some of it. Nemestikov. Russia's cold, man.
Is it?
As a whole, yeah.
Yes.
There's one city in Russia where they can't shut off their cars in the winter, or they don't start until spring.
I remember hearing a quote. There's an interview with a Russian resident in that same city, and it was about animal rights and they're saying how do you feel that people are upset that you're hunting animals and wearing their furs to use as winter coats? He goes, and the guy says, in Russian but translated, if you lived here for a year, you would too. Because, if you don't wear fur, you're going to die. It's cold.
Yeah, it's cold for sure.
Imagine having to refuel your car while it's running.
Speaking
I've never done that.
Of the Jets, congrats to Hellebuyck, but that just reminded me of Laine and what he's done so far with the Canadiens. 6 goals in 7 games. We've already talked about him before and shown them. We're not going to show whatever other goals he scored, but just a quick tip of the hat to him. 6 goals in 7 games after coming back from all the mental health issues he dealt with and getting injured in the preseason, and he is just lighting it up.
Has he found his habitat?
Okay. No, I said you were cut off.
Yes. Yeah. No, he's got an amazing release, very quick, accurate, hard shot. He's a pure goal scorer in every word of it, and he's finding his stride in Montreal.
Yes, he's definition of an elite goal scorer. But that's all on Mr. Laine. I just want to give him a quick shout out there. The last thing that we're going to talk about.
To be happy about in that sense.
Sorry?
I'm happy that the Sens have something to be happy about their roster. They don't have much, but they have Laine.
Did you say the Sens?
No, I said the Habs.
Okay.
I'm glad the
I
Habs.
I thought you said the Sens. I was
We'll watch
really
it back
disappointed
later.
for a second.
We'll watch it back later. Maybe I took a short on Facebook. If I did. It's like the Gerbring or whatever I call his name.
I'm not going to go back to that.
Oh, okay.
If I had the effort to edit it out, I might.
Oh,
but we're going to leave it so everyone
can
see.
Going to leave it.
Yeah, we're going to let everyone see you call him Burger and me look at you like you have 4 eyes. So we got a trade. The Ducks traded Fowler and a fourth, with Fowler 38.5% retained, to the Blues for a second round pick. And I'm going to butcher this man's name. Sorry. Biakabutka? Like, you try to say that. I have no idea who that is.
No, you said it in the chat. Is that the exact spelling? Because I've never heard that name before in my life.
Let me double check.
That might be my brother's play name coming this weekend.
Oh God, I hope not. That is the exact spelling, so I did not misspell it. We're gonna look at him and see.
Biakabutka, maybe. Biakabutka. You can't say it 10 times fast.
Biakabutka. Oh, these poor announcers, if they ever have to. I guess some announcers do. He's in the ECHL?
Is he?
He's played 1 AHL game this year and 13 ECHL games.
So he's a player that they're trying to free up a roster spot.
Maybe it was just a piece to make it work. He's 22. He's not gonna, turn into a star all of a sudden. He's probably never gonna play in the NHL unless there's a lot of injuries, realistically.
Well, there have been a couple of ECHLers that have made the NHL in the past. Doesn't happen.
It'd be a long shot. So basically,
I don't know a thing about it. Never heard that name.
He's a depth defenseman for depth defenseman. So they got Fowler retained at 38.5% and a fourth in exchange for giving up a second. And Biakabutka. So yeah, I probably did it right that time. But
we'll go with it if it wasn't.
I don't understand what the Blues are doing. I don't mind the cost at all, and that's the main reason I don't fault them too much on this trade. But why do you want another 30-plus-year-old D-man? Like, as far as what Anaheim got, I'm happy with that for them. They get a second. They retain a little bit of contract. I think it was kind of like what they did with Perry. If they had waited, he would have hit his 1,000th game very soon. 1,000 games with the Ducks. We could have done the same with Perry, but they didn't. They traded him off. I think he had played 991 with them. Like, it's just a little bit of a class issue there. But as far as the deal anyway, I'm happy with it for them. They get a second in exchange for a fourth, which is a big enough upgrade. They retain $2.5 million for 2 years, which is peanuts considering the cap space that they have, and
it's half the growth.
They'll be fine.
Yeah, that's half the growth is what they're retaining, more or less. Like half of what the cap is going up between this year and next year is basically what they're retaining.
Yes, sorry, I wasn't sure he said gross or growth.
Growth.
It's not growth. Exactly. But on the other hand here, what are the Blues doing in acquiring him? The price is okay, but they now have Justin Falk signed until the end of the 2027 season. And right now he has no trade clause. Then the next 2 years, he has a 15-team no-trade list. Then they have Torrey Krug signed until the same year with a no-trade clause. And then the next 2 years, a 15-team no-trade list. Those guys are 32 and 33. Then they have Parayko signed until 2030 with a no-trade clause at $6.5 million. You add Cam Fowler at $4 million and $3. And $3. Yeah, it's that extra $3. It's there. He can be traded if they have to. I mean, he has a 4-team no-trade list, but he's 33, and then you have Nick Leddy signed for this year next at $4 million. He's 33, and you have Ryan Suter. Guy's been a great player, but he's going to be 40. Now, he's done after this year, and that's fine, but why did you add someone to make your D-core older? Your youngest guy is Philip Broberg, and after that, you jump up to 26-year-old Scott Perunovich.
He's a small guy too, but
I just don't understand all the money for this season and the next two that they're going to put into a 32, 33, and 31-year-old. And then you add Fowler and Leddy. Well, not add Leddy, but you add Fowler into that mix for next season. And Leddy's there too. Like, I just don't see that. I don't see the thought process.
So,
especially
when
for
I
a
look at
struggling team.
I look at this. Cam Fowler's been around. He's been around the league.
He's a vet. Yes, he's been with the Ducks for a long time.
So are they they still have some young players that they're trying to develop. This
Broberg,
is what
yes.
I feel like Fowler might have been a better. I feel like he would have been a better fit on a team like the Chicago Blackhawks, because they need, like, the Blackhawks need a veteran presence, someone who's been around, someone who
they
knows
have plenty of that though. They pay
maybe
for it,
Buffalo.
but they have it.
Like, Buffalo is a team that you could use a lot of this. I know, like, you have a tendency to look at, you got to go young, you got to develop young, you got to get those young players.
Young guys are important, but yes, you need your veteran presence.
There's a huge value in having your veteran presence with guys who have been around, guys who know how to win at this level. I'm not saying that Fowler has. He's been on some very poor Duck teams. But
look where they are in the standings. I'm not saying they can't make the playoffs, but right now, Vancouver and Calgary are in the 1 and 2 wildcard spots in the West with 37 and 36 points. The Blues are at 33. They're sitting at 500, so it could go either way. But if you're going to buy a player to help your team go, why do you buy an aging defenseman to add to your already old decor? Like, if you go back 5 years, this is a stacked decor. But we're not 5 years ago.
Are they buying time to develop their young defensemen? Are they buying time to figure out that piece, and they're buying these players right now to slot in, transition into it, get some veteran leadership, surround these young guys as more mentorship?
That's possible, but I don't know if there's anyone that's going to come in after they're gone, put it that way. Broberg has been fantastic for them so far, but, when these guys eventually, retire or their contracts are done, I don't see a lot in the Blues pipeline that, guys that are ready to step up into the NHL role as D-men. Up front, they're okay. I don't see any problem. Maybe they're not spectacular, but they're definitely decent. Jordan Kyrou, Robert Thomas, Pavel Buchnevich. Then they have kind of not grit guys, but just lower line. Like, Toropchenko's been really good this year. He's a 25-year-old rookie. Jake Neighbors is okay. Zachary Bolduc could be good. those are all good young guys that could step up. But then you have your vets, guys that are going to mentor these guys. You have Nathan Walker, you have Brandon Saad if he doesn't get traded, Radek Foska, Braden Shen, and I guess Buchnevich at this point is more of a vet. He's 29. He's been around. He's a solid player.
I think they're bringing them in again. Part of that mentorship, part of the like a 33-year-old defenseman is not ineffective at this.
I don't think he's ineffective. I'm not saying Fowler's this, useless seventh D or guy that should be in the NHL or AHL, but
no, he's still an NHL defenseman.
Make
he's
a
still
lot
top
of sense.
Six. But veteran presence. Look at Chris Tanev with the Leafs. Yes, I'm going back to the Leafs a little bit, but look what he's been able to do with the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Chris Tanev.
He's old by NHL standard, but
it's a hell of a lot different though. With almost all players, their offense drops off, but their defense stays good. Mm-hmm. Tanev has always been a great shutdown guy.
Exactly.
But that's more sustainable. Fowler is not this great shutdown guy. He's a little bit different. He is more of a two-way, more of an offensive guy even. So what is the point in that?
I don't think it does a lot for them other than I think this is purely on the veteran presence getting that. I think that's from my point of view.
You know how much I love Jay Freshcard, so we're going to take a peek at his. And yes, I don't think that's measurable. Veteran presence is very important.
I think that's what it is.
So, offense, good. Defense, bad. That's basically what we got here.
But do you pair him with a guy like Parayko?
Parayko's defense is superb, so that could help. You could do that lefty, righty combo there. But still.
He's not going to be, he was never brought in to be a penalty killer. But he has played penalty kill minutes in the Ducks situation now.
Also, we won't cover this more than this right now because we don't have the full trade yet. But the Predators have traded Alexander Carrier to the Canadiens for Justin Barron.
Huh.
And that actually is the full trade. There's a little bit more to it. So this is just a 1-for-1 swap of a couple depth guys.
I was going to say, do we want to cover that one tomorrow?
Yeah, so we'll definitely get into that a bit more tomorrow. It's getting late.
As far as
watching, it's 11:20 for us, and we both work in the morning.
Yes, we do. Now, just finishing off the Cam Fowler, it doesn't put them into a playoff contending team. It doesn't do a lot for them. For the Ducks, they're rebuilding again. They're offloading, they've just brought in.
Yes, they're rebuilding. They have some good players, and they're getting some picks in return. I'm happy with it for them. It's a good trade.
Our guest, they have our guest favorite, our guest hopeful today. His favorite player in Trevor Zegras.
Yes, we had a good buddy of ours. He had some complications come up, so he wasn't able to make it. But I'm sure he would have loved to sit here and just rip on Trevor Zegras and how he's not a good player. But that is other Dave.
Yeah, he's flashy, but not much else there. He's a TikTok player. He's a TikTok player.
Instagram hockey?
Yeah.
As they say to Jack Hughes.
Yes. He's a guy that he can do these flashy things like flip the puck over the net or do the lacrosse style move, but because I refuse to call it the Michigan. Sorry, fans, but I refuse to. I don't like it.
It is Michigan.
You can call it.
Anyway, everyone, we're going to end it a bit abruptly here because it's
what?
late.
Abruptly?
Yes, a bit abruptly. So, everyone, have a good night or good day whenever you watch this. Thank you for tuning in and putting up with this man's dad jokes.
If you have any comments or things you would like to see in our videos, please leave us a comment. Maybe a like and a subscribe would be a great Christmas present as well.
Even though I'm mocking him, we would really much appreciate that. A like, a subscribe, share it to your friends if you like it.
I say it with a hint of sarcasm because I find it funny with all the other YouTube videos. If you like this video, please hit like, share, and subscribe. I do think that one is pretty funny that you see it in every single video. But that being said, if you like our content, if you don't like it, you want to make fun of us, you want to bring up some good points, join in the conversation, we would love to see your comments.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, you just reminded me of something. Starting, I guess, next episode, we're going to pick a comment for a topic to discuss on here. It's going to be anyone that messages us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. You can comment. You can comment on Instagram, Twitter as well, however you want to reach us. We're going to pick one random topic and discuss it a little bit. So you'll get a little shout out on the show, and we'll see. So feel free to send us a message. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night.